Next up, we speak to Lizel, sister of late Leatitia van Wyk, who was brutally murdered by her husband 2 months ago, despite having several protection orders against him. The media tells us women are abusing protection orders, but when police fail to act on these orders, valuable lives are lost. Leatitia van Wyk suffered a gruesome death at the hands of her husband, and the police failed to protect her. We speak to Lizel Izaks, sister of late Leatitia, about the role of protection services in keeping our women safe. With us in studio tonight is Lizel, a sister of the late Leatitia van Wyk. Lizel, it's difficult to talk about someone so close to you having lost their life in such a violent way. But I think we're here especially to get clarity. One of the reasons we've got you here tonight is the fact that Leatitia, before she was murdered, she reached out to the police for protection. Can you just tell us what steps did you guys take with her to get her husband's behavior reported?
Alna, there was a few incidents, and I can only give you the true events from when I was involved with it. She, in 2000, I think it was 13, she filed for divorce because she realized this marriage isn't what she wanted it to be. They've reached a point where she felt their ways need to split. Thereafter he came back and they tried again. And then last year in June he moved out of the house, and he started seeing the kids every second weekend, or they tried to set up some schedule, and she went forward once again with the divorce proceedings. And in the beginning it was fine, because they had this little roster that they agreed upon. He would pick up the kids, spend time with them, take them back, and then all of a sudden his behavior towards her changed again. It became aggressive again, and when he would come back to drop the children on a Sunday evening, then the two of them would get in some sort of a squabble, and then he would be aggressive towards her. So on those occasions, she would tell me about it, but where I now literally took her to the police station was in December. So you
took her yourself?
Yeah.
All right.
Was in December when my mom actually called me and said to me that I must come over to her house. She was not in a good space. And when I got there, she was very jittery and uneasy, and she told me she felt unsafe in her own yard. The previous evening, there was someone in the yard underneath her window.
And she suspected him.
And she suspected it was him.
Right.
And when she woke up and realized something is not right, she looked out of the window, she saw a shadow, because it was in the evening, and when she called out and said, her words to me was, she said to him, "Diano, wat maak jy hierso?" Then the person just ran away. So the next morning I took her to the police station. We reported the case, and she told them that there is divorce proceedings happening. They did have an agreement regarding the children. She does not know why this behavior now came up again. She was very upset with the police officers there, because they made her almost feel like she was the criminal. It's like, this is a house domestic issue. Why are you bringing it to us?
So you guys you went with her to open the case, and you say they didn't receive you warmly.
Specifically the sergeant, or I don't know what
the
you call them.
receiving officer.
They have most this different designations, but he didn't know how to write up the case. And he literally had to go speak to his superior to know how to label the case. Okay.
So they weren't trained in dealing with this type of issue?
I don't know.
All right.
I don't know.
All right.
So basically, by then she got very upset. She actually wanted to go home, and I had to beg her to stay so that we can continue and just get it done, just get it on file, so that no one can at the end of the day say that she didn't do it. She also asked for a protection order against him, because then she decided that if this is how he's going to treat her, she's not going to allow him to see the children anymore until they have sorted all the issues out.
And this wasn't the last time you'd taken her to the police before the incident, two months later?
Yeah, that wasn't the last time. And then I can't remember the dates, but it wasn't long after that. Then it was the kidnapping that happened. I was actually there the Sunday at her house, and she asked me to drop her off at a friend. She was feeling depressed again, and she just needed to get out of the house. She left her children with my mom, and she went to a friend's house. And when she came back, she went to pick up a baby boy, Joshua. And when she came into the house, she even made the bottle for baby, got ready for bed. And when she got into bed, he overpowered her. By then, she'd already locked the doors and everything. So we assume he made extra keys of her house, and that's how he got into the house.
So there was that intent.
Yeah. So she didn't. It wasn't like he knocked on the door, and then got into that. He was already inside the house.
Sure.
And he was hiding in a cupboard somewhere. So she was lying on bed. The next moment, he pounced onto her, and then they had
a scuffle.
A bit of a scuffle there, and then she had to, at that time of the evening, it was 11 o'clock, get up, get dressed, get baby, and then he walked with her to his car. So the car was parked a few meters away from her house because he knew my mom would recognize the car.
Sure.
Then they left. He took her to his father's farm, and that's where he now was very violent towards her, very aggressive. And then the next morning, they brought her back, and then my mom called me again. So my husband and I went over, and she didn't want to leave the house. She was very afraid. She was also afraid that if she leaves and he sees her leaving, he might come there, come to my mom, take the kids, leave. So she was very afraid that he would take the kids and leave. So we finally convinced her. We told her we have to do the process of the police. We can't just, because they won't come out to her. What is the chance of that happening?
And I know you guys took to the police, you took photos of the rope he used to tie her up and actual evidence that could be used in a court of law. You did make them aware of these things.
Yes, when she cleaned up a place a few days after this incident, she must now got hold of everything, and she put it in a cupboard in a little bag, because they were supposed to come out to her house to look at the evidence as well.
Definitely.
What she told them about the whole incident, and they never came.
All right. And shortly after that, Leatitia was murdered by her husband in her home, and the road has been very tough for you guys. Just to give us our viewers an indication, this thing happens a lot in Namibia at the moment, but we sometimes lose context of how big the influence is of such a traumatic event. If you could just give us an indication, the path of healing that you guys now have to walk, not only with Leatitia's family, but her husband's as well, because he committed suicide. So there's this lack of justice. How are you guys dealing with these things?
I know for now it's difficult. You know, these things take time. I don't know how much time. So at the moment we're taking day by day, because there's a lot of things that we have to sort out. I mean, her estate, the children's medical aid, their pension and things like that. So there are these things that needs to be in order, and to make sure that her children are taken care of.
And happy.
So that is what we're mostly busy with. So that keeps you going.
And you guys are looking after her kids at the moment?
Yes, they are mostly with my mother, but they are in safekeeping with me and my husband.
Fantastic.
And because we travel every day. We have to come to Windhoek, so they're mostly with my mom, but then we look after them over the weekends.
Fantastic.
And so the kids are also going to a psychiatrist regularly. Obviously they can't see baby Joshua now, he's too young. So, but the other 3 years have gone, and I think they're getting the help that they need.
Yes.
But it's still very difficult for them. Last weekend, when it was Mother's Day, it was once again a very difficult day for us.
And just for clarity's sake, neither the Women Protection Unit, nor the Ministry, nor the police have approached you yet to help with psychological counselling?
Since the funeral, no one has been in contact with us. After the funeral, we had the Peace March, and then after the Peace March, we haven't heard anything from them, not one word.
But there were a lot of young kids at the Peace March.
That was a pretty good turnout.
It's a good turnout, and a lot of young men, which was great. So Leatitia's life meant a lot, and we don't want her death to mean nothing. If there's a message that you want our nation to learn from this, our police, our communities, what would that message be?
I know for me, it comes down to one thing. It's don't turn a blind eye, you know. Don't ignore the pleas of women and children in your area or your community where you are staying. And just because someone is putting up a brave face and going to work every day and doing what needs, that doesn't mean that she's okay. So just don't turn a blind eye, and especially when someone has reached out, whether it is to community, whether it is to a church or to the police, then, you know, take action, do something about it. Don't let something like this happen again.
Thank you, Lizel. That's all from us tonight on One Exclusive. Join us next week for the hottest topics from an alternative point of view.